Hello, I'm Foulplay Gaming and welcome to this Akroma deck building video. In today's video, we're looking at a deck that I like to call the Stronghold, which is a deck that has been built from the legendary card Entombed Elders, which comes from the realm Siege of Draco Temple. Before we get into it, if you find these deck building videos useful, please consider liking, subscribing and commenting as it really helps the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to see some Akroma games streamed live, we're going to be streaming them here on this YouTube channel every Sunday at 6 PM UK time. Let's get into it. Let's start with the basics. Ideally, to be able to create this deck, you will need the entire Siege of Draco Temple realm. You may be able to create it if you have the Entombed Elders legendary and a few other decks from Siege of Draco Temple, but you may find that you don't have enough copies of certain cards and therefore might have to swap them out for others. To recreate this deck completely, you will need the full realm. For the main objective of the deck, we look at, is it a Chroma deck where you will be gaining to 30? Is it an Akrom deck where you'll be reducing others to 0 shards? Or is it a hybrid deck where you could realistically do either? This deck has been designed as a Chroma deck where we'll be looking to gain to 30. It is unlikely you'll be reducing others to 0. On screen now is a list of all cards which you will need to build this deck. If you wish to skip the rest of the video and just build this deck for yourself, pause the video here or look in the description to start building this deck yourself. If you wish to find out about how to play this deck, as well as the positives and negatives, then continue watching. Let's look at how to play this deck. Most cards in this deck are self-explanatory, but there are a few combos or strats to consider. Vast Volataris is one of your main win mechanics. It is a location with a very powerful ability which allows you in every resolve phase to be able to gain an extra shard for every card you currently have in your hand. You want to get this down when you have a decent amount of cards in your hand so that you are able to win the game in a matter of 1 to 2 turns. If you have 3 to 5 locations already out at the same time, consider comboing with cards like Restless Research or Monastery Keeper to be able to research and draw a ton of extra cards which will prep you for your next turn to be able to win. It's important with Vast Volataris that you don't play it whilst your hand is relatively low. Otherwise, this gives your opponents a few turns to be able to destroy Vast Volataris before you will get good value out of it. Mirror Sanctum can easily be your best card. You can use this card to copy any location currently on your canvas, as well as any locations on your opponent's canvas. This is a rare card, so you will only have one. You will be wasting this card if you copy any location other than Vast Volataris, Entombed Elders, Chroma Storehouse, or Monastery Nest, or any rare or legendary locations from an opponent that you feel has good value. Do not waste your Mirror Sanctum, it can be the difference between winning a game or losing. Chroma Storehouse is an interesting location, which has an ability which when you activate this location, you can choose a certain color Chroma shard and you will instantly gain back 2 shards for every card in your canvas that contains that color. Its ability means that to get the most out of it, you must place this location when you ideally have 3 or more cards and select the dark blue color. In this deck, you have 8 locations that have dark blue, including itself, and 5 characters. So if played at a good time, you can easily gain 10 to 30 shards and potentially win the game in one move. Do not play this when your canvas is empty unless you are utterly desperate. Minima Draco. At a cost of 3 and only giving you a +1 in the resolve phase, it can take 3 turns for this character to be useful shard-wise. So his best use is for his action. This is where, when you play him, you can choose another opponent and draw a card for each character they have on their canvas. So ideally, you do not play him until your opponent has at least 2 characters, so at least you can get some decent card draw from him before he potentially gets destroyed. Control cards. In this deck, you have a lot of control cards like Chromatic Extinction, which you must try to use for wiping of characters, as if you use it to wipe locations, it will likely harm yourself. You also have 2 Breath of Ice and 2 Breath of Fires to help you control the rest of the board. Try and use these for important characters and important locations, as once they're gone, they're gone. Search for Wisdom and Research Collection are fodder cards for this deck. What that means is you can use them if you wish, but they are in the deck to be used to trade, so that you can get an easy 4 shards each to help you pay for some of the more expensive locations and actions. Let's look at the positives and negatives for this deck. The positives are You have great shard management. You have a lot of cards in this deck that are going to give you 2 to 3 shards per resolve phase, either from stealing or gaining. Provided you can get these locations out early, you should have no issues with keeping your shard count high. This deck is very hard to counter. Locations, overall, across all the realms, are the hardest card to remove from the board, considering that it cannot be attacked. Although there are counters, overall, when you get your locations out, it will be quite hard to counter. There are multiple win mechanics for this deck, whether it's Vast Volataris and building your hand size up, whether it's Chroma Storehouse and playing it when you have loads of locations down, or just generally the wide variety of locations that have plus mechanics. There are lots of ways you can win using this deck. You also have plenty of control cards which will help you to control the board even though you haven't got many characters out. As for the negatives, there are a lack of strong characters. Your strongest character only has 3 shards, and you only have 2 objects. This means that if you run out of cards like Breath of Ice to be able to remove characters, you may be in a situation where you have no choice but to leave an opponent with a strong character, potentially helping them steal and drain their own way to victory. There's not that much block potential. You have 1 location that gives you 2 block, and 2 locations that give you 1 block. Otherwise, you are going to struggle to hold back opponents from stealing or draining from you, but hopefully, if you've got enough locations down, you'll have so much positive gain that this won't be an issue for you. The last negative is that this deck can be easily countered by a control deck, specifically location control decks. I'm looking at you, Drain the Woods and Block Out the Sun from Curdle Hill. If you happen to play against a realm or a deck that has lots of cards that stop locations or erase locations, then you may struggle. But as I said earlier from one of the positives, there aren't that many of these, so you should be okay. And there we have it, that is the deck, the Stronghold. If you want to tell me what you think, or if you've already had a go with this deck and you want to tell me how it went, then let me know down in the comments. Feel free to use this deck as a template and swap in or out any cards that you see fit to make your own decks. Again, I would love to hear about these. And is there a legendary card or maybe a type of deck that you want to see built? Well, let me know down in the comments and I will happily have a go at deck building for you and post it in a further video. Thank you very much for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could check out some of my other Achroma videos with other deck builds as well as some other tier lists. Thank you for watching. I've been Foul Play Gaming, and as always, stay wholesome.